in people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when you think about that, what do you think the role of fashion in our life is?
I think as far as currently right now during the pandemic, the role of fashion has increased, right? So our relationship with fashion has increased now because, we have to wear a covering, the mask on our face. So our relationship has increased in ways that, most people didn't realize. With us being able to stay home, I'm telling clients, I'm telling students to break up the monotony of their day, they should actually change their outfit according to whatever activity that they're doing. Just in the same way that you would put on your gym clothes when you go to the gym, you would put on your dating clothes when you go on a date, you put on your what you wear for work to go to work. So each activity has a corresponding uniform, and just because we're not leaving our houses and we're confined doesn't mean that you could just you need to wear your pajamas all day every day. So I think what's quintessential to mental health is actually having our relationship to fashion evolve.
Y'all gonna have to forgive me because I'm not dressing every day. So what are your thoughts? Because I'm not, and that's the thing. I kind of and I'm jumping way ahead of myself right now, Jonathan. I know can you hear me a little bit better? Some people
Not
text
really.
me. Hold on. Some people text me and said they couldn't hear me. Jonathan, what are your thoughts about our fashion right now? Like, I've been a little bit slack. I haven't been getting dressed every day. I've been slack.
Oh, I have to be totally honest with you. I haven't been dressing every day either. Like, I am so comfortable. Just recently, and it might be a little embarrassing, but it's true. I just threw away these Nike sneakers that I love. I didn't know I was so attached. So I'm saying they ran down, but that's my go-to sneaker. It's the comfort. I do my workout in them. Meanwhile, I have sneaker in boxes that I've never worn, and I had to psychologically in my head put a day and said that I'm going to throw these away and start replacing them with something else. And I've gotten so comfortable. I put on sweatpants when I go out, or now it's shorts, especially when it was like 80 and almost 90 degrees, and just a t-shirt. But I think in what Dr. Karen had mentioned about with changing with the activity, I think that makes a whole lot of sense. And it might change my kind of view on how I've been doing this.
Yeah, and some people, and I should have prefaced that by saying, some people that are not homebodies, they can't do, they're more social, they're more extroverted. These are the types that they need to change outfits, every day, every activity. For those who are introverted, homebodies, you could get away with just being comfortable, and most of us that are introverted, or in fashion industry, we're used to dressing up every time we go out. So this gives us a break, and we can just be comfortable. So it depends on where you are as far as your personality, introverted, extroverted, homebody, someone that's really, because I know a lot of people are claustrophobic and they want to get out, they're having cabin fever. So I would actually make that tip for them, or suggest that tip for them. But for us, like, I wear I've gotten to wear, maybe I'm self-disclosing too much, but I wear kimonos all in my house, just.
What a great idea. Yes. Because it's like a bathrobe, but it's fab.
Yes. So it lifts my spirits because, as a fashionista, I use fashion to express myself. So it lifts my spirits, but I'm just in a robe all day, and I'm walking around, prancing around. So I got a million kimonos now.
Do you wear them outside?
No, I don't. I actually.
Why?
Now this one I do. This was really fancy. But this needs to be seen, But I have ones that are kind of lighter in fabric. They're not sequins. They're just print. And those I just wear in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and talking about that, I need some of those, as a matter of fact. But do you, and Jonathan, I'll start with you. When we talk about African Americans in fashion, do you think that fashion has a language? Do you think we as African Americans use it as a language to communicate?
Okay, when you say language, something that's speaking to you. What do you mean?
Well, and that's the question. I mean, do you think we use it? We as African
Oh,
Americans?
absolutely.
Okay.
Because think about it. Like you had mentioned, you know, with your style, it was what? Patent leather shoes and black stockings. That sounds very down south southern. You know what I mean?
It was.
So look, because I spent half of the school year in New York, half down south. When you would see the regular women during the day, the week, or whatever, but when they went to church, those women are doing the big hats. The men had this, like, they were really speaking. Like, that was the language. It was it's sort of a respect. You know, Sunday is a respect. You don't put on the tennis shoes. No tennis shoes. The boys had the polished shoes on, the girls the little lace dresses, and the women, and my grandma had the big hats, and it was sort of like a tradition and an honor and a respect. So it spoke that. It spoke of respect.
Dr. Karen, what are your thoughts on us using, do you think we use it as a language, a communication piece?
I do. I speak a lot about well, I don't know. Well, I speak a lot about our current first lady, and how she's not as vocal as our former first lady, and how she speaks a lot with her fashion. She's very vocal. If you have a fashion eye, she's extremely vocal. So I'm using her as an example, but we do express ourselves. Some of us express a comfy language, a language of comfort. Some express a language of padass. Some eclectic, eccentric. So it does have a language, and some of us speak the same languages, and some of us don't. So yeah.
So when we think about, and I think this is the reason I came up with the question, because I looked at it like when you have artists like Pierre Moss, who, he has certain language on the attire. Jonathan, like you mentioned the church, I hadn't even thought about what you were saying, Dr. Karen. Then I think back in time, and Beyonce did a video. It was a halftime show where they had the hats and they were dressed in that time zone for the Black Power. So I think that's why I was kind of asking that question. Even right now during times like this, if some of the times the way we wear the language is really trying to communicate that power or communicate, I had my pastor in South Carolina used to say, we dress the way we feel. And I'm guilty of that. Some days you can look at me and tell, okay, if you see me and I'm looking kind of, okay, she's not feeling 100%. Because, grandmother taught me, you come out of the house looking decent. So I think that's why I kind of asked that question. With that said, let me move on. So some of my thoughts were, and I am not the guru, that's why I have the two of you here. I looked at fashion kind of how I used to use it as, well, more so how I use it now, how you can use fashion to really, in my mind, empower a person to make them feel better, or you can use fashion, which I think you both alluded to diagnose and tell what might be going on with a person. Would either of you care to comment on those thoughts of mine?
Okay, so I have a theory, according to the fashion psychology field, and it actually derived from, that Sunday's best, right? So, there's nothing new around the sun. So the theory is called mood enhancement dress, where I actually define it as dressing to optimize the mood, and we as Black people of color, we do this a lot. You know, if we going through whatever we're going through all through the week, on Sunday, you put on your best, you know. So that's actually what inspired the theory. So I do believe you can dress to uplift your mood. I think, as I said, we as Black people do that a lot, and maybe we don't pay attention to it because it's so natural to us. But I've studied other cultures and they don't do this. So I noticed like what comes natural to us, it doesn't come natural to others. So I literally have to tell, you know, and it may sound simple to us, but I have to tell other cultures, people who, you know, identify with other cultures, and say, hey, you know, you can dress up to make yourself feel better, you know. So I think it does play a role, a heavy role in our culture.
Jonathan, what are your thoughts?
Could you say that? Can you just
Sorry. What are your thoughts on, like I was talking about using fashion to empower a person, but also using fashion to kind of see where they are and diagnose? I'll tell you, my mind goes to, have either of you seen Tyler Perry's movie, Confessions? I think it's called Confessions. Young lady is, she's from, you know, like myself, she was naive and she was dressing very naive, but she was fiery. And so the gentleman took advantage of her, you know, looking at her to tell where she was. So Jonathan, do you think you can use use clothing to really like see where a person is or diagnose something that may be going on in their life?
But you know, at one point I would say yes. But then how fashion has changed and evolved, it's so different now. Because let's say for instance, if people were wearing sneakers, like, you know, like guys will have a suit on and then after work they put on sneakers, you know, or women will put on sneakers like they're running for the Metro North or for the train or whatever. Now, sneakers are like $1,200 and it's a fashion statement. You know, like we would dress up in sneakers. So there's different types of fashion now that you can't, like a girl can wear very relaxed, and I know Dr. Dawn will know this, and wear sweatpants with heels, right, Dr. Dawn?
She said so.
Right, that's your thing. But before, that wasn't sweatpants. Like that was unheard of. Like you would look like, oh, she didn't think much of herself. Girl, you know she had on sweatpants. Like now, it's different. So if she wears sweatpants, you think that she's confident, she's comfortable in her own skin. She puts some heels on, she's rocking it. You have Balenciaga sneakers, some Gucci sneakers, and you could go to a red carpet event and get people talking. Look at Pharrell when he bought the Vivienne Westwood hat and an Adidas suit at the Grammys. Like he wore that to the red carpet. Do you know how many people were buying that hat? You know, you got a sweatshirt. So it's an individual thing of how now you perceive a person and what they're wearing. You know, a woman can wear a t-shirt, a fabulous t-shirt with a ball gown. You know, like a tulle kind of something. You know what I mean? Nice accessories, and like she can go anywhere with that. Everyone's like, she had on a t-shirt. Like it's different. Like I can't really. The way how I tell now how people is how they walk.
Talk about
you
that
know what
for
I mean?
a second.
Or a good telltale is the footwear and a bag.
Oh, okay.
You might see a girl with a camouflage jacket on, some sneakers, but when she got that Hermes bag or Chanel or Balenciaga, it's like, oh, what are you saying? You know, what are you saying? It's different. Yeah, it tells a lot. It talks to you a lot. It does.
Well, talking about that, Jonathan, is this better? Can you hear me better now?
No.
Oh, was it better yelling?
Yes.
Okay.
Like that? Like
Joy,
that?
can you hear her?
Yes, I can hear her just fine.
Okay, see, I don't know what it is. Go, you were fine.
Okay. All right. Well, some other people were having trouble, but what I'm going to do is send the recording out tomorrow for anybody who missed it, and it will be online so everybody can have it. So we will continue the conversation. So, talking, that took me forward. Do you think people use fashion to kind of hide, or to try to can't talk, create an illusion? And this tip question comes from Whitney Houston. When I think about Whitney Houston and the illusion that they created for her, and she was suffering. So do you think people outside of her use fashion to create this illusion, and they're hiding maybe like a mask or using it as a blanket, a security blanket?
People definitely do that. They do layer after layer after layer. You know, you heard of the cliche retail therapy. They buy and buy and buy and never get to the root of the problem. You know, so a lot of people do that, and it becomes tricky. So yes, you're gonna dress to, you know, uplift your mood, but it's like you have to still get to the root of, you know, there's a fine line. Get to the root of what you're hiding. Or what you're not dealing with. So, you know, if you're constantly, you know, I'm just dressing to uplift my mood, but you're not getting to the root of that. So that as you said, Whitney Houston, I think people can create an illusion. I do think an illusion was created around her, and it becomes, you know, self-destructive, because then the person begins to believe their own illusion that, you know, nothing's wrong with them. They look at themselves, they're dressed up, you know, yet they're crumbling inside, you know, so it becomes self-destructive because they're constantly layering and layering and layering, you know, look after look after look, and they're never getting to the root. And, you know, obviously, you know, to her demise, unfortunate demise, it was unhealthy.
Jonathan, any thoughts?
Yes, I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. I think the hiding part, and not just, you know, with Whitney Houston, just people in general I've had clients that wanted to because they say I have a big butt, you know, so they want to wear baggy clothes or look, I'm real conscious of my butt, but yet the clothes are tight.
Yeah.
You've heard that, Dr. Karen. Like, it's like such a contradiction. It's like, but why don't you know, don't wear the tight clothes, you know, wear something. Right. So, or you get the client where she's really thin, and she can wear tighter fitting clothes, and she's wearing baggy clothes. Like it's hiding in some kind of way, because, as we know, Dr. Karen, right, is the thing because of some trauma, or that somebody said something. The dark-skinned woman will say, "Oh, I can't wear red lipstick because she heard you too dark to put on that red lipstick," girl. You know, right? So now she grew up with she's too dark to put on the lipstick. Or you can't be out there flirting around with those boys and wearing those tight, you know, so now she's not wearing the jacket anymore. It's because it's in the mind of thinking. And that whole thing happens.
I can identify with that because, and that brings up one of the questions, because as a kid, red was my favorite color. But what happened, and my mother meant no harm, but my mother told me, you know, well, red is for hookers.
Red is for hookers.
And so I ended up changing my favorite color to purple. I love purple now. But, and this is leading to my question, because with that said, I later found out that red is one of the colors, and the oranges and those colors that bring out my complexion more. So that's the question I came up with. Do you think that colors and personality are related in regards to that?
I mean, I talk about this in my book. It's a chapter called Colors in Context, and I talk about what different colors mean. Even when I lecture with my students, I too, my mother told me, and like I said, maybe it's a cultural thing. You can't wear red nail polish. You're basically a hoe. That's what she said. So, you know, I actually rarely have red things in my closet. And when I do, I feel inherently self-conscious, like, oh, somebody's gonna think I'm a hoe, you know. And you know, when I teach students, it is according to psychological research, you know, red is the color to attract, you know, if you want to attract someone towards you. So there's something there to that. But now, you know, in this time, you know, everyone's like, wear whatever color you want to wear. So I think it's just kind of antiquated, you know, stuff, like cultural, you know, norms that have been, like, you know, passed on from generation to generation. And depending on what setting you in, you know, you may not want to wear red, you know, because there's some old folks that's gonna be there. They're gonna say, well, baby, why did you wear that damn red? So you know, so it just depends on, you know. But I know when I'm around a lot of younger people, Generation Z, they wear red any time of the day. They don't care, you know. But being that, you know, from our culture, I have to be conscious of that. So I think it kind of depends on the context, the setting that you're in. But yeah, I mean, I've so many of us have been told, you know, that about the color red.
Yeah, Jonathan, you hit on something, because that resonated with me, you know. And speaking of that, going into that, Jonathan, both of you, but I'll start with Jonathan. When we think about those myths, those things that we've been told, you know, and you hit on the main one for me. Talk about that, you know, things we've been told in the church about how we wear our dresses and things like that. How do we identify those things and break out of that bondage? I see it as bondage, someone else may not, but, and I know there's a fine line, but what are your thoughts on that, Jonathan?
But you know what is so interesting that you brought up this question. Now, I like to watch, I love to watch Sunday Best on BET, that competition show. Like, I just love it. So remember back in the day, women did not wear pants to church.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You were not wearing denim and jeans and come as you are. Now you see those church women, they got on whatever they want. They got whatever they want. The men are, or it's changed. That shows you the power of fashion, right? It evolves at the time. Like the church ain't like the guys are not wearing 3-piece suits or they casual. Look at what's the host of it, the little one. What's his name? The one who hosts that.
I can't remember his name.
Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
He has on Balenciaga, Dior, Gucci. If you and the stylist, I know this guy who's a stylist for gospel artists. He says the budget is unlimited. The money and the opulence that they just, you know what I mean? Because it's a status kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's a stat. They're wearing that and they're wearing, you know, and it's a status thing. I think it's such a power. It's such an influence. And that's when I see people who are comfortable or wear designer clothes as if it's nothing. You know, when you just a certain way or your back, you know, it's when it just, I'm wearing my you know, Balenciaga like they're Levi's. Right? It's a way of how you do that. It's such, and it's very prevalent in the African American community from how I was raised.
And I can attest to that. You know, even I'm half Caribbean, and in church, even now it's 2020. I'm not permitted to wear pants to church.
Now,
even now, and even when I've gone to other churches, you know, just visiting, I can't even bring myself to wear pants. You know, so and when I do, I have to wear something that's symbolic of like a dress. So when I wore pants, I wore like a cape or something. So something still flowy that gives the dress appeal or that look. But I can attest to that's very real, and it's still going on.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. And I feel guilty. I feel like I'm sinning against God if I wear pants.
Isn't that something?
Yes, and that's going to anybody's church though, because I, that upbringing that stays with you, from childhood.
Yes.
I can go to anyone's church. I'm in fashion. It doesn't matter, and I'm like, oh, I gotta wear that dress. I gotta wear that skirt.
Yes. Interesting.
Well, wow. And yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm not gonna ask that question because that's personal. So I'm not gonna ask that.
You go
that
ahead
sound
and
like
ask
a hook, didn't it, Dr. Karen?
Right. You better go ahead and ask that
She
question.
threw a hook. You threw a hook out, Carla.
Right.
And
I
thinking
want
we're
to
gonna
know.
bite. I ain't biting. You gonna bite?
I'm gonna bite. What? Look, that's gonna get us some more views. So come on, let's go.
Okay, so do you feel? How does that affect you? Do you feel bound by that? Does it affect your esteem?
I don't know if it affects my esteem because I am I'm more feminine in my personality, but I could imagine if I had some type of if I kind of identified on the gender spectrum more of a tomboyish or masculine type of energy, I would actually have a problem with it. But because I'm kind of I'm very feminine, it doesn't bother me. Like I said, I've even thought of wearing pants, but then I drape it with some type of cape or something to give it that dress look. So do I feel like I'm in bondage? No, but that's because my as far as how I identify as far as my gender, I'm extreme feminine, so it doesn't bother me. But I would imagine, if I were more, kind of just more identify more, like I have some girlfriends who are more of like a tomboy-ish type of persona, I think I would have a problem with it. I think it would make me feel like I'm in bondage, so.
Do you think, because this is one of the questions that I actually had down, do you think that in certain situations people would use clothing as a way to not necessarily?
Well, I can't hear you, Carla.
Sorry, so this was actually one of the questions that I had down, talking about like certain cultural guidelines, more so focusing on us. But do you feel like people will use clothing sometimes as a way to control people? Jonathan,
Yeah.
do you feel like sometimes people will use clothing to control people?
She's saying, do we feel like, people can use clothing to control people? Do you think that they could use it to control people?
What an interesting question. I'll let you answer that, doctor.
Oh, okay. Yes. So yes, we can see this clearly in prison. Most people think fashion. When they think fashion, they think the runway, they think magazines, but fashion is clothing, so even in the prison system, wearing a specific color, is that's a way to mentally destroy you or mentally keep you in bondage. So I've even lectured on this, wearing the color pink. If you assault a female officer, they may put you in that pink uniform as opposed to an orange one. And depending on your level of offense, you have a designated color. So in doing so, if you can imagine you're in prison for 10 years or something, and you get accustomed to wearing orange or get accustomed to wearing red, when you come out into civilization, you may feel like, oh, I cannot wear any other color except this, because it had that particular uniform that kept you in bondage. So I do think fashion can keep people in bondage. We're talking about church as well. But then again, we can also look at it from an individual standpoint. Others may not feel like they're in bondage. It just depends on the person. It makes me think of women in the Middle East. Us in the West, may say, oh, they're in bondage because they're wearing hijabs and habayas. And really, if you go over there, I spent time in Kuwait, some of the women, they dress down to the nines underneath, and they don't feel like they're in bondage. They actually don't want, some women don't want to expose themselves to other men. And when I began, I didn't wear a habaya or a hijab, but I actually dressed much, much more conservatively. So I covered my my shoulders, my legs, you know. And when I came back to the States, I actually didn't have this propensity to show my skin. I felt like, well, I don't want them looking at me. And it's just a shoulder. It's not even like, I'm not showing no thighs, just a shoulder, you know? So a lot of us would say that they're in bondage, but it's just a respect thing. So I think, you know, and to your point, I mean, back to your question, just to conclude it, I think, you know, people can use fashion to keep people in bondage, but it also depends on the person as well. You know, depend on the person wearing it. Like I said, if it were my friend, I have a friend who's a noted photographer, and she's a part of the LGBTQ community. She dresses very masculine, and I know for sure if you tell her to wear a skirt to church, like, you know, oh my God, it would be, all hell would break loose, you know, no pun intended, you know. So I think it really depends on the individual, but yes, fashion can be used to imprison someone.
Interesting. I like that. I didn't even think of that. And especially in that context of like in prison. And then, yeah, I never looked at it like that. Because I would have said that, can it, in bondage people or control people? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm even when you watch when people come out from prison into civilization, if you notice, all of them wear tracksuits. The men wear tracksuits.
Yes.
And that's because it's a one monochromatic uniform. It's a custom. Right. It's very similar to what they wore in. I mean, granted, they weren't wearing tracksuit, but that one piece look. You know, so a lot of them wear tracksuits. It's loose. It's one, they, you know, remember when they're in prison, they don't really have the chance to really, oh, I'm gonna wear this, I'm gonna wear that, to pick out their outfits. So the tracksuit is just, okay, one-stop shop. I'm gonna throw on that. And they pretty much, even in 2020, they just wear those Adidas tracksuits, I think it's Adidas or Nikes or something. They just wear the same, you know, look. So I think those things can keep you in bondage even when you're not in bondage. And you know, so,
interesting.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
So let's talk, because see, I can go on and on, but I have so many questions here, and I knew we weren't going to get to them all. But and Karen, you might have, Dr. Karen, you might have to repeat this to Jonathan, because whatever's going on with my sound, I don't know.
Yes, repeat this. Go ahead.
What's going on with a person when they want a new image? Like, there's always this saying about a woman that cuts her hair is about to change her life. Mm-hmm. So when a person wants a new image and they're desiring a new look, are they kind of like coming out of a cocoon? Jonathan? Okay,
so this is definitely for Jonathan. So when someone desires to change their image and have a new image, you know, when somebody cuts their hair, they're changing their life. So what is that about? Someone coming in, they all of a sudden want to have a new image. What's that about?
You know, it's so interesting because especially during this time, I have my clients and my girlfriends. So Jonathan, what would you think? I'm thinking about going natural. I haven't been natural because I've been relaxing and perming my hair ever since high school. And like they're in their 40s. So they were, you know, and I was like, God, I think that'll be amazing. Why don't you try? And they're like, you think so? And one girlfriend of mine did it. She's short, she's natural, she's loving it, she feels free. Like in this pandemic, in this quarantine, in this time, people have really been able to really look. Yeah. Now you can't go out and try to be all cute or worry about, like, the cuteness ain't mattering no more. Now you're worrying about paper towels, Clorox, water. Is all these things gonna be at the supermarket? So you know, you don't really be thinking like, should I go on Amazon and get this? You know, go on Guilt and buy that and stuff. That's not priority no more. Perming my hair,
Right.
It's like, ooh, okay, I got all this stuff, but I'm caught up in all this fear.
Mm.
I have all this stuff, and I'm sitting down eating my feelings away, right? I'm gaining all this weight. I don't like how I look. So now, what are you gonna do?
Mm.
So she starts working out, or he starts working out, you know, or the guys start wearing their beard and keeping it. It's like, oh, or look, going gray and just keeping it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a difference because it's like, I don't know what tomorrow's going to be. So I just want to live and be my authentic self, whatever that feels like. So let me take some chances now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are taking chances. They're going into their wardrobe. They're saying, I don't like this. I can't fit this. Because look, they have the time.
Yeah.
You have the time to do it.
That's
So
time.
get rid of this. Let me give this away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So even doing that, like I don't know who, because we feeling as if that we need to do some service and be able to help somebody in a way. So let me pack that away for donations for that. You know, I can't fit that anymore, or I'm going to get down to that size. It's changed perspective on how people are thinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then that's where Dr. Karen and myself will come in and talk to them and guide. It's a guiding thing. When's the last time you wore that?
Mm-hmm.
It says, child, I can't even fit that. Like I got size 2, 4, 6, 8, all of that. Like the realistic is I'm never gonna be a size 2 again.
Mm-hmm.
And let that go. And guess what? It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not gonna be a size 8 when my cousin just died. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or mama just got infected with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can let go of that stuff and it doesn't mean that much to me. So how I have to go in the inside now and start exercising, taking my blood medication and realize that I have diabetes and stop eating that stuff because I want to be around and I want to be healthy for me. It's not about a man. It's not about like, it just shifts and it changes. So when she sees in the magazine or go on social media or she's outside, and this is one thing that I always get my clients, and they always start to cry or you feel a shift. And she says, I never thought that I could look like that.
Beautiful.
You know, you ever see the women or you see something and know that we're the same size. I know I have style, but I never looked like that.
So
Right?
talking about that, talk about that path. Like, I mean, that path to healing, because it sounds like at that moment, there was a shift. There was a healing that took place.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So right now during COVID, you've already talked about this. It sounds like a lot of people are coming out of that cocoon. They're really looking within themselves. So what are you each, and we'll start with Jonathan. You know, and I say this because, and we'll ask later how people can get in touch with you for your services, but based upon the economy right now, if someone's not able to afford your services, what are tips that you would offer for them to start to shed that skin, to heal, and use clothing as a way to do it?
Well, I'll give a $2 tip.
Yeah.
Because I can't do no more than that. No.
This is business.
You know what the thing is? And I know Dr. Karen can attest to this. It's self-awareness. You know what I mean? And when you really take a look and start being really honest with yourself and know who you are, that's where it comes from. Then from there, it opens up the conversation and the dialogue, and you look at things differently. I've had women who are size 0, and they would wear a size 4, 5, or 6. And had no idea when I face them in the mirror and they're looking and I'm saying, that's not your size.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. I had one client, she's works out. She is this fit and she used to go for 7, 8. I say, you ain't no 7'8", you a 4. I said, try this on. She comes out and she says, oh my God, I can fit this. There's something that, and Dr. Karen can help me on this with this, and there's something that women see, or men as well, because they're wearing a waist 36. I'm like, put in the 34. Like, that's really too big. And they seem it just bunching up and gathering. Like, in their minds, they see something different than what I see. And then, you know, it's amazing after that. What is that called? What is that, doctor?
That's called body dysmorphia. You know, when you look in the mirror.
Body dysmorphia.
And how you externally appear doesn't match how you see yourself internally.
Yes. That's a real thing, right?
That's a real psychological thing, because so many people have it. And you got to think, like, now with social media, you look at yourself, you take a picture of yourself and you like, I don't like that, you know, or I don't see that. But millions of people can say I like it, or you great, you cute, but
yes.
It just doesn't match on the inside, you know. So that's actually called body dysmorphia. It's a real thing, especially as now we have access to cameras 24/7, you know, mirrors, reflections, you know. So it's a real thing. And I think just even in the Black community, because I was thinking of that, like, what's up with that, you know? Not dressing our sizes, and we, you know, I know I've been shamed, you know, body shamed, but oh, you too skinny, girl, you need to eat. Every time I go home to the Midwest, oh, you need to eat. And I'm like, I'm eating enough, I'm fine, you know. So I was even thinking of that, you know, like in the Black community, it's not even cool or acceptable to be a certain size, you know. You have to be voluptuous, or, you know, kind of thick or slim thick, or whatever they call it these days. You know, so I was thinking of that, like, wow, a lot of people, you know, because even myself, I was like, oh, I'm a size 4. And they're like, no, girl, you a size 2. And I'm like, but you sure? You want to check that measurement real quick? Because I swear I'm a size 4. And I was like, get to the root of that. And I'm like, oh, because every time I go home, I get, girl, you need to eat. And I'm trying to, you know, and they don't go nowhere. I got a fast metabolism, thank God, you know. But it, you know, so I think it's that body dysmorphia. And I think we all, like I said, when there's mirrors now, there's cameras, there's all reflections. We constantly on our phones taking selfies and stuff, you know. So I feel like it's a real thing. And I just think that it's evolved now because of social media. It's gotten worse, actually.
Yes.
It's gotten worse.
Yes.
It's gotten worse. And maybe you look a certain way in the mirror, or in the reflection, you look bigger, maybe than what you are in real life. Maybe that's a thing too, you know. Maybe we look bigger on camera, you know. So
right.
And people can't register, like, oh no, I am smaller than what I appear to be. So it's a real thing. And I think in the Black community, you know, within our culture, it's a real thing too.
Okay.
Do you think, this is me now, do you think that comes from the church?
Ooh.
And
does that come from the church?
Yes. And I asked that question because, you know, I was taught, you know, you kind of hide your body. But now we're identifying our body. We're framing our body with clothing. So do you think that's one of those things that kind of came out of our roots, out of the church?
I think you're onto something now. Look, we might have to come out with a new research study. I think you're onto something, you know.
Oh, got that.
Look,
I mean, yeah, really.
Because we're taught to cover, and like, oh, your skirt got to be a certain length, and even when you go to school, you can't dress. But now, I know in 2020 now, I mean, they're wearing a lot more. And men and women are wearing a lot more forming, you know, form your figure clothing. You know, even men. It's not, you know, everything is close to the skin now, close to the body. So I think that's upward as far as the trend is going. But maybe, you know, the root of it, if we're talking, you know, etymology, maybe it comes from the church, you know, and us trying to be pleasing to God, you know, maybe.
Okay, question. Now we're talking about, like, so you're coming out of your cocoon. Do you think someone can use clothing, fashion to kind of rewire their thought system?
Yes. I speak a lot of this for students who are like, because right now, the new age, manifesting is really in. So I've actually spoke to a lot of students and clients about, you know, I want to be this type of person. And I'm like, well, dress like that. Who say you can't dress like that? You want to be a teacher, dress like a teacher. You want to be a model, dress like a model. You know, so it's almost like that cliche, dress for the job you want. You know, so I do think you can use clothing to become something that you aspire to be. And I think in turns it can rewire you. You know, because clothing is just more, like we said, it's more than fashion. So I think you can use clothing to rewire yourself. I know before this fashion psychologist thing was a trend and everybody wanted to do it, I used to dress up, and because I used to tell myself, well, what would a fashion psychologist wear? And I would be like, oh, she would be elaborate, you know, but she would be smart too. So I used to have this like sequin look and like this smart, nerdy look at the same time. And so I would walk up to people and they would say, what do you do? I'm a fashion psychologist. To the point that I started believing it, because I started dressing like I think a fashion psychologist would dress like. Then you got all these girls now, oh, I'm a fashion psychologist, because they dress, you know, they whatever the corresponding uniform is. So I do think you can dress to rewire yourself. And just as we said, you know, you can dress and it can help hold you in bondage, you know, and like I said, prisoners coming out and they haven't rewired themselves. They you know, so they're going to wear those track suits similar to what they wore in prison. So I think it can be used to rewire your brain into, you know, believing a certain belief system.
Interesting. Yes, I agree on that. I have a friend now, very close friend, who he's a fitness guy. He's into fitness. He's very athletic. He rides his bike. He works out at 7:30 in the morning, and he says, "I want to start dressing a little preppy." You know, because now he's of the COVID and a lot of people not working. He's thinking of changing careers, and he's just like, I don't really know what that looks like, but he knows that he wants to change his attire to a little preppy. So to be a little more conservative, it's what does that look like? Is it a button-down shirt? You know, like, I guess it'll be his interpretation of what that's going to look like. So yes, it is a rewiring with that, because it's in your thinking of because when I put on a suit, I mean, there's something and especially a hat, if I do my big hats, when I do the big one,
I love your hat, yeah.
If I do just a little small one, you know, but when the big one comes out, or when the suit comes on, it's ready. It's empowering. When you come to the event, they're like, oh, you know, they see you. It's just something like that rewires me for that night. It's for wherever I'm going. I say, okay, I'm going to do, okay, should I do a print? Should I do that? Should I just be very basic? It does. It adds, it enhances that night in my mood.
And I would add to that, this is important, is how people respond to you. So how you feel about yourself, and then like you said, your friend he goes from fitness trainer, this fitness look, into this preppy look, and he kind of trying to figure out, well, what is my next move? What is my next career move? And it'll be in turn, maybe he'll get an opportunity because he's dressed in a preppy conservative way, and maybe he'll be walking down the street during COVID, who knows? And somebody may say, oh, or do you do? And they assume that he does whatever conservative preppy person does. I don't know what job they do. And then bam, he got to hand him his business card and he got a job opportunity, you know? So I think it's also how you feel about yourself, but then how other people respond. So you feel like taller than life in your tall hat. And then when you walk in a room, people are all eyes on you, like, well, what's going on? You know, so it's all about how people respond to you as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you think, and it sounds like from what you both were saying, fashion can be used to really liberate a person? Jonathan?
Can fashion be used to
liberate somebody?
Oh, to liberate somebody? Absolutely. Absolutely. Fashion can definitely liberate somebody. As simple as a pair of panties, right? Y'all women know, right?
Yes.
I'm talking about, you had this long day. So go in. and get some lace panties
Mhm.
and this nice bra. And it doesn't even have to be for anybody else. It
Just
gets to be for
yourself.
you.
Mhm.
It's that feeling. It liberates. You take
Mhm.
it off, just for taking it off or just there,
Mhm.
bare chested, take it off and just have on, or have on the boxers, his boxers, right? His shirt, his big oversized shirt on because he just left to go to work. And right?
You are
How
painting that
liberating,
picture.
right? You can't get no more liberating than that. So yes, fashion does liberate.
Oh,
Hello.
Right.
Oh, this is a good talk.
you know what? We're gonna have to do this again. But I'm gonna have to put this record. I have to put this recording up. Oh my God. So I'm good because I would go on and on, but I have to. I have to wrap up. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of quick questions. Tell me is one of these old statements. Tell me if you think the statement is bondage, if it puts someone in bondage, if it liberates them, or if it might be a statement of wisdom. People treat you how they see you. Jonathan, could you hear? People treat you how they see you. Do you think that's a bondage statement, a liberation statement, or a wisdom statement?
Oh, I think it's a little wisdom behind that because, yeah, in some aspects, people do treat you how they see you. I mean, especially if it's an event or it's somewhere if you're dressed appropriately, and meaning like if it's black tie and you dress accordingly, if it's a sporting event and you're dressed accordingly, but then just something a little extra. It could be the color that you wear or the tie that you wear or the dress where it's just something a little extra. I think people do treat you of what you wear.
Yes.
Unfortunately, but I do.
Yes, and he I'm gonna just piggyback off that. He said unfortunately, because in 2020, it's unfortunate. You should be able to wear whatever the hell you want to wear and not have people judge you. But in this society, we're judging. But it'll be interesting to see post-COVID, now that we all got comfy and we're not dressing for others anymore, we're dressing for ourselves. It'll be interesting to see if this statement will be something of bondage, because now, the CEO or whoever, we all, even as fashionistas, we go outside in our sweats now. Like I'm in all black. You can't see me. I got glasses on. I got my mask on. So look, if you judging me, look, I work in fashion. So it'll be interesting to see post-COVID how this statement of wisdom, how it may matriculate into bondage, because people don't even he mentioned someone that shaved off their head. So people don't care anymore. So is it maybe that's gonna be a bondage statement? I don't know. We'll see in the future.
Right.
But you hit on something. So I'm gonna have to skip one of those questions to slide this question in. The mask. Let's talk about the mask for a minute. How do you think, let's start with Jonathan. How do you think the mask is affecting people when it comes to fashion? I mean, I've seen different things with it, but do you think that, Jonathan, do you think the masks are affecting you? Do you think the psychologically masks are affecting people in their fashion sense? How do you think?
You know what's so funny? At first, I was wearing the blue, the regular dollar mask that you could just buy, the blue one. And one of my friends, we were on Facebook Live. We were on Facebook Live, and he's like, "Honey, what you got on? What is that?" Oh, you need something more fashionable than that. Because I just thought that was gonna last for 2 months the most.
Right.
Now it's a fashion statement. Now I got African mask, I can't breathe mask, camouflage mask. I'm trying to match up with because look, wallet, keys, mask. Wallet, keys, mask. Like it's right. That's just I'm used to it now. I'm used to it. It's the new normal. I like to see the people that get very creative with it. You know, the mask, and then I seen a girl with the head wrap with matching her mask. I saw a guy with a shirt and he had the mask on, but it was like it wasn't like a t-shirt. It was like a regular kind of Calvin Klein kind of shirt, you know. Yeah. And he had a mask. I thought it was so thoughtful and so chic. Right, Dr. Cameron? If you see somebody matching their attire with the mask.
Now we gonna be like, what does your mask say about you? I got Fendi mask right now. I done got Dior. I got the black little number. You know, so at this point, it's like, what does your mask say about you? So it's a statement piece, and look like we gonna be doing this for a long time. And
it's
even
an accessory.
Yes, and even after the COVID, maybe we still be scared that we'll get the pathogen, so we still gonna be masked up, you know. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been great. This has been great. So tell me, both of you, how do you know why is this so important to you that you do? I mean, you do it in different ways, but you're accomplishing the same thing, really helping people through the therapy of fashion. So why is this both important to you?
Okay. Okay, I'll start. Well, I can end this by saying that Jonathan, I used to watch him on television saying, I want to do this. And so to be on, I'm about to cry and everything, but to be on this panel or talk, and he's on here, this is like a dream come true. I'm trying not to be a fangirl, and he over here calling me doctor. I feel like he shouldn't even call me doctor. You know, I'm not worthy. So, I mean, it's the same thing. I just think that, you know, I get, you know, as millennials, you know, now we want to remix everything, but it's the same thing. It's the same. He's saying the same thing I'm saying. So it's just an evolution, and I'm just glad that he did what he did, because if he didn't do what he did and is still doing it, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. You know, nobody would even pay attention to what I'm doing. So I think that, you know, I you know, this is just me paying homage. So it's all the same thing, therapy and fashion. Fashion is therapy. And if he didn't do what he was doing, I wouldn't be able to be here. They would be like, Dawn, fashion psychology what? Fashion psychology who? So, you know, so this is a full circle moment for me right here. So.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? I feel the same way about you. I saw you on a talk with somebody. Then I Googled you, of course. I'm like, who's this girl, honey? And then I saw the TED Talk.
Yeah.
I was like, she saw the TED Talk. Okay. You know, and then there's something about when I see this skin, when I just see us, I root for us.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, you better do it.
Yes.
Do it. However you do it right.
Yes.
Do it right. Do it with integrity. Do it with class. Do it. You don't really do it right if you're going to do it. And you're doing it. I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes. And I do what I do because of when we talked about church and we talk about these different things that people grew up with and learned, to change that whole conversation and how we think and look at fashion and what it means. My hashtag is beyond the clothes. Because at the end of the day, do you really care of like, you know, she bought this dress or you look good in that dress? The connection is when you find out about a person and they told you, I was molested. They told you, I don't like getting older. They said, I fear this. I'm ready to divorce my husband. I'm doing, you like all this intimate stuff. And then the healing comes in, and then it's not with the clothes, it's the bonding. I just recently had a client, and it's so hard to even call them clients and friend, and she was thinking about separating from her husband, and she talked about that process to me and was so open and so vulnerable and so raw at the time. And I'm thinking that I have this, look, I have this gift
Mm-hmm.
that people expose themselves to me. So the backdrop of it is fashion, because that's what I love. So
Yes.
I incorporated that with loving people into what I have to do to make myself have a living. And that's what I do. And people generally are drawn to that. Because look, I'm a stylist. I do retail. I sell closet edits. Anybody can do that.
Not
Right?
me. Not me.
But nobody can do it like me.
And get you to
I'm
open
very
up and
clear
feel.
on people come for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
And
a big Dr. Karen, there's a
Yes.
responsibility that we have.
yes, and the confidential, like he didn't notice, he didn't mention any names. He felt uncomfortable. He was saying it's a client, you know, he say it's a friend. So to get someone to open up to you while they're exposing themselves, taking off their clothes, you know,
Yes.
naked, that, and that's why I said that there wouldn't be a Dawn Karen if Jonathan didn't do what he, because people would, you know, they have to think, oh yeah, I did that with Jonathan, or I saw that on his show. Oh, that's what you do something like that. Yeah, you know.
Yes.
So it's coming full circle. And what he does, like I said, if he hadn't give people, you know, makeovers and style people and get them to buy certain things, and then they open up to them, when people say fashion psychology, they'd be like, what? You know, because he laid that foundation. That's why I'm able to do what I'm doing. So it's just a beautiful thing. It's really
And
beautiful.
then the little girls and boys that see you and say that I can do that too, because she's one of us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And to see a black person, a black man on television and fashion making money, right? This wasn't a side gig, like, oh, I'm just, you know, I got my day job. This is the day job, you know. So that was huge. Like, oh, I can be on television. Okay, I don't gotta make a fool of myself on television. I don't gotta show my butt to get on television. Okay, you know, and I can be reputable in fashion, and I don't have blonde hair. You know, so I just, it's a full circle moment. I really, this lie, I don't want to get all, we about to do praise.
Oh my God, I have to get your phone number. We have to exchange numbers.
Yes.
Caller, you have to give me her number.
Yes. So it's a beautiful thing, but like I said, he laid the foundation.
Okay.
But when I take it off, you two stay, don't move.
Yes.
Okay, so last question for you. How can people contact you, and are there any upcoming projects that you can talk about?
That is so interesting. At my Gmail is my name, jonathanbardrick@gmail.com, which is very easy. My Instagram, my Twitter, everything is my name. And I am working on a project, but I can't talk about it.
Well, you can find me, Dawn Karen. Just type in Dawn with 2 N's, Karen. You'll be able to find me on every. Just find me. You can find me. And what I'm working on a lot of stuff. You know, I'm just trying not to be bored and be depressed during the COVID. So I'm trying to work on stuff that people ain't even seen yet. But I can say they were talking to me about being doing something with television, which my elder has done this. So they were mentioning this pre-COVID. So I'm assuming that's up my alley when this is all over. I'm accepting students at the Fashion Psychology Institute. I'm trying to think anything else I'm doing. I don't know. I'm just happy to just make a living at this point, you know. So yeah.
Okay. And so Jonathan, I know that the show Born was at Borrowed, Old, Refurbished, and New. That's playing in what, 56 countries?
68.
68. So people can see that now.
You can see it on iTunes, Apple TV, and Amazon. Born to Style.
I love that show. I'm telling you, I didn't really watch reality until I watched your show. And Dr. Dawn, you have a book. How can people get your book on Amazon?
So sorry, I forgot about my book. I'm having so much fun. Look, Dress Your Best Life. Dress Your Best Life is available in 22 countries in 4 languages. I'm trying to get it in China next. I'm just happy. They tried to, no, I can't tell y'all that. But yes, I'll tell y'all that off the camera. But yes, this is Dress Your Best Life.
it's a great book. It's an easy read, and you can buy it, and it'll tell you all about your getting your whole life. So,
all right. And if anybody, well, when anybody buys it, if you consider, it doesn't take anything from Dr. Karen, but if you go through Amazon Smile, they will donate 0.5% to my nonprofit. So please consider watching Jonathan's show, watching her book. And other than that, do you have any final words for anybody?
just I don't have the final words. Just you're allowed to wear your pajamas all day, every day.
So my thing is just stay safe, continue to be safe, stay beautiful, be authentic, tell the truth and tell yourself the truth, most of all, right?
Yes.
And just look, this is when I wake up. If you don't believe in a higher power and call him God, just call him something. Just believe in something and know that this too shall pass, right? This too shall pass.
Amen.
Okay.
With that, I'm signing off. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.